Did Sony just kill Helldivers 2? A lot of people in the Helldivers community seem to think so. Well, we had a chance to speak with a group of Helldivers to find out what they think about the situation. Hi everyone. What you're about to hear is an unscripted roundtable discussion between us and some of the Helldiver 2 players in our community. We asked them to share their opinions about the recent announcement from Sony and Arrowhead that will require all PC players to link to an active PlayStation account. Basically, we were asking them if they think that this incident and the ensuing firestorm from the community will kill or at least severely hurt Helldivers 2. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, this was recorded last night on May 3rd, about 24 hours after the original announcement. However, since that time and due to the immense backlash, Arrowhead has indicated there will be at least a partial reversement of the PlayStation account requirement for those living in areas that can't get a PlayStation account. So please keep in mind that the opinions you're about to hear don't have that perspective. With that said, let's get into the discussion. Okay, welcome everyone. It's been a crazy 24 hours here in the Helldiver community. Most of you will have heard about the announcement by Sony and Arrowhead yesterday. The requirement for all PC players, Steam players to, over the next month, link their Steam game to a PlayStation account. We, Ray and myself, thought we'd get together and talk to some actual Helldiver players. We've got a bunch of them here with us in our Discord that are going to contribute, and we just want to get an idea of what everybody's thinking about this. And we also put out to our community today a community notice asking about it, and we got a bunch of comments. I'll mention those as we go, but just want to start by saying we want to make it clear we really love, and everybody here I think would agree with me, we really love Helldivers 2. We've really enjoyed it. It's one of the best games we've played in a long time, which is why we were so inspired to do News from the Front. And Ray, do you agree with that? I'm going to throw it to you. What do you think? Real quick, like how...
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, I mean, listen, I'm not a spring chicken. I've been playing games for a while. And I haven't been this attached to a game since when WoW came out. And I played that for years. And then there's just, years and years of just, same old things, same old. And then for whatever reason, this was just so fun right from the get-go. Great job pushing it out. They had a little bumps in the road, but all in all, it was just super fun and slick. Playing with your buddies again, is fun. It's what a game should be.
Yeah, exactly. It's what a game should be. So we've really enjoyed it. So with that said, a lot of people agreed with that. And I think that's why this particular announcement has kind of caused such a firestorm, because PC players now, a lot of them, and some care, some don't care. So what I want to do is I'm going to start throwing it to the Helldiver players we have here with us, just to get their thoughts about what do they think about this requirement suddenly to sign up for a PlayStation account if you don't already have one and to link it to Steam. Let's throw it to the group.
Jen here, guys. As far as for this current issue, linking your account with PlayStation, like currently right now, I don't own, I think the last was PS3 for myself. So as far as for my personal stance, I don't necessarily see a problem. I mean, I think the problem, for most, or I should say the guys that have the legitimate urge for not doing so, is because of the recent records of, the hackers leaking information or getting information from Sony. So I understand the friction with that part. But outside of that, I don't really see too much concern for most people, just because if everyone's thinking about it, right, there's, at any given time, there's hundreds of thousands of players that play with Epic. Epic's another platform, or EA directly, right, that, have subscribers that, let's say it's a third part, kind of like a third party that you go through when you're coming off of Steam, which this is, the Steam audience. So with that being in mind, you share information that way with those companies too, whether they had a leak or not. But it's like I said, it's just thinking about it in the sense of it shouldn't matter to that part of the information that Sony's using. It's just your email and then like a password, and it's like basic information. You can keep that, and that's it. So I don't see it being too much of a problem. But again, I understand the what comes behind that.
I think it's mainly just the region lock. Like, I don't have a problem making a PSN account. But I think it really stems from there's a good chunk of divers that are just in countries that can't use PSN, and if they use a VPN, they'll just get banned. So it's like, what's even the point?
If I can jump in real quick, a lot of the comments we got in our community were also just mentioning the whole Sony has a bad track record with games and data breaches. I'll throw some of those up on the screen. And any comments I put on the screen, I won't show names. Some of the comments were definitely, it's the principle. We don't want Sony involved. We don't want to have to get these accounts, even if it's a simple matter. And we all have multiple accounts, right? We have Blizzard and Origin, and Ubisoft. But I must admit myself, I have a Ubisoft account, but I never buy Ubisoft games anymore because I'm so tired of Ubisoft and their particular account system. Same with EA. So I've already given them my data, but I no longer play those games for the principle. And I feel like it's going to be the same with some people. And as Gad, you just pointed out, that for some people, and we have those comments again in our community tab, that people saying, this is now effectively going to ban me from the game because I live in a region that I can't get one of those accounts. What do I do?
I just want to preface this by saying that I'm a PlayStation user, so I want to start by saying that this new change doesn't affect me at all. Having said that, my feelings on the announcement are that it's a very dumb decision on Sony's part, because by forcing people to have a PSN account, they're limiting their player base and revenue stream to all the countries that allow it, because not all countries do, like some people pointed out. And on top of that, there are tons of current players in countries that don't allow PSN accounts that will be blocked from playing the game soon.
And that just segues nicely into one comment that somebody left on our YouTube channel. And I'm just going to read it out because it's really good. It should have been made more clear that this requirement would exist. The issue now is telling people they must do it or lose access to a game they've both paid for and sunk lots of time into. It doesn't feel good as a consumer. It's an excellent comment, and I agree. It's the principle. It doesn't feel good as a consumer. And I remember, actually, Ray, when you and I installed the game for the first time, as I was installing, you'd already done it ahead of me. You said, by the way, it's going to ask you for a PSN account. And I remember going, oh, man, another account. And then you said, no, it's okay. It's optional. You can just skip it. And I was like, great, that's wonderful. And I do not remember at that time it being told to us that this is just optional for now. Maybe it was somewhere out there, but I don't recall that. So again, for a lot of people, it's the principle.
I suspect right from the beginning, they probably had this in the plan, and it wasn't actually we couldn't implement it. It was like, let's get as much people on here as quickly and easily as we can, knowing that there's going to be a whole bunch of people saying, I'm not going to bother.
I disagree. I think it's more the fact that the original Helldivers game had a player base of only 7,000 players. No one really knew that this new game was going to the developer studios didn't even expect it, which is why there's so many server issues at the beginning. I think that once Sony saw the success of Helldivers, they were like, holy shit, we need to get the huge amount of players their data.
Apparently, a lot of people that bought this game are living in countries that don't have PSN, that can't have PSN accounts. Effectively, they sold a product and then ripped it out from under them and said, screw you, we still took your money. Unless they're planning on refunding people that can no longer play the game, then they effectively ran a scam.
I think we've seen this too with the possibility of lawsuits in a lot of these countries, especially considering how many of these countries are in fairly second or sometimes even first world countries.
Especially the EU.
Half of Europe doesn't have PSN access.
I think it's a majority of the Balkan region
Yeah,
that doesn't have access to it.
The Baltic states is the main ones in the EU. And if you dig through the terms and conditions you quote unquote agreed to when you started Helldivers in your PlayStation account, there's some, I'll describe it as scummy stuff in there, but I don't know how likely class action stuff's going to be.
I mean, not to stick up for PlayStation here, guys, but I don't, probably just like Ray, we saw it pop up because it popped up, right? Hey, make a PSN account. I'm pretty sure I did, and that was only because I knew a friend of mine's has PlayStation, so I knew there might be some issues if I didn't make a PlayStation account to make it easier for the friend request part. Because I mean, again, Sony's the publisher, right? So this is going to get put. I mean, they're the ones publishing it. They're the ones that are providing the forum for Arrowhead. If Arrowhead was like Bungie in a sense and had the money at the time to do it themselves, then we wouldn't have this issue. Period. I get it, and I get the rub. I get the rub because it's kind of like, oh, well, here it comes again. So now it's something that everyone has to deal with. But I don't want to. I think everyone's kind of put in that light of you got to blindsided about it when it wasn't really blindsided. It's just everyone was up in the hype. You're hyped about this new game that you want to play, and be damned whatever I got to fill out to play in a sense.
Two things I want to mention, just to jump back in. First of all, signing up for a PlayStation account, it's not that hard. Although I will say this, I signed up today using one of my gaming emails that I use for this kind of things that I don't have to give all, my personal email information. And I, for the life of me, cannot get it to work all day long. I've been trying to log in using the link that Arrowhead provided, I might add, it's been telling me that my password is incorrect and I have to keep resetting my password. I use a password manager. I know I'm getting it exactly correct. It's not even letting me into my PlayStation account. So if this continues, I won't even be able to play, even though I theoretically can sign up for one. So that's a bit of an oddity. The second thing I want to mention is we should just point out, as it's sort of been obvious, but this is definitely a Sony thing, even though poor Arrowhead, and I sympathize to a certain degree with Arrowhead, they've definitely taken the brunt of the rage today. The Helldivers 2 Discord has been just ablaze with rage all day long. And I sympathize because it's definitely coming from Sony. Having said that, they have not necessarily helped themselves because I think out of sheer frustration, some of the community managers definitely made some comments earlier on that just sort of egged it on. And I know they were deleted, but I there's one that I've got that I'll put up on the screen.
It's too late. Damage has been done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, those community managers need to be either reprimanded, replaced, or other kinds of measures because, it's not
I
pretty.
think they represent the whole of Arrowhead, despite being community managers. So, not the big deal, comrade.
I do want to say something though. If you have made it this far in the video, make sure to like and subscribe to Two Jesters for more quality content.
Just so everybody's clear, I didn't ask him to do that.
So, editor, cut that out, please.
Nah, leave it in.
I will say this though, that the CEO of Arrowhead definitely, he didn't say a misstep, but he was taking that tone like, look at the negative review bombing, which I'm sure many of you seen it today. When I looked earlier, it was already just today 33,000 negative reviews on Steam.
Yeah.
It's probably more. I'll throw the graph up on the screen here.
Yeah.
It is actually more.
So it's
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. So they definitely got review bombed. He pointed that out. He said, this was a bit of a rough day. I'm paraphrasing. This has been a rough day. We're going to just work to get the trust back of the gamers. And I hope they do. Because I still love the game. It's one of the best games I've played in a long time. We really love it. I hope it comes back. The other thing, and I said this to Ray the other day, one problem with this is, and I started to see comments in those reviews, this is going to open up the wound that happened right at the beginning when they kind of had to go through that whole storm about Protect Game Guard, the kernel level anti-cheat that they're using that a lot of people were upset about. And a lot of people refused to buy the game for that reason. And many of us, including me, and I'm usually pretty cautious about that. I may have thought twice if I'd known that was there, but I'd already bought the game. To this day, I'm still quite cautious. I actually close everything. I turn off all my cloud syncing, access, everything. Every time I turn on Helldivers, everything is closed, even access to my Google Drive and OneDrive. I don't know if that helps, but it makes me feel better. And then I reboot after every time just because of GameGuard. And I have to wonder, had this been a requirement at the beginning plus GameGuard, I wonder if they would have had, maybe not, maybe people seeing at the beginning like, PlayStation account, fine, good, done. It was upfront about it. I just wonder though, but it's opening up that wound. I've noticed reviews and comments.
But does GameGuard I don't know much about it. Does it hack your system and get personal data or something?
So
No.
I can answer this for the sake of public introduction, to introduce myself as an expert. I work in cybersecurity. I'm basically a white hat hacker. I've been doing it for about 8 years now. Protect is a kernel level anti-cheat. And what kernel level means is it has unlimited access and priority access to every system resource. And you do not get to control what it does. You do not get to control what it sees. You do not get to stop what it does or sees. So if you have for example, a folder of private anything you don't want someone to see, it's going to go through that, and you don't get to know what it does.
Early on, though, Arrowhead did address that. I can't remember his name, I can't remember his last name, made a Reddit post addressing all that, saying, it only runs when the game and it shuts down and so on. But it didn't, a lot of people were quite upset. This is feeling very much the same, where it's just they're kind of, they weren't blindsided with that first one, though. This one, a lot of people feel blindsided by. But to be fair, there's a lot of people, I'm looking at a lot of the comments in our community channel, that people are like, look, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Lots of those comments, but time will tell. I noticed when I looked at the Steam charts over the last 48 hours, and I'll throw it up on the screen, doesn't seem like there's been any massive decline or any decline at all that I can see over the last 40 hours, it looks just as normal. Granted, we're down to 25% of our original population from 3 months ago, down from over 400,000 to just over 100,000. But in the last 48 hours the 24 hours since this happened, nothing noticeable yet. However, the requirement doesn't really go into full effect until 1 full month from now on June 4th. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when that date approaches.
Arrow is normally pretty transparent, down to the point where their community managers are very vocal when they're not having a good day. Do you think that there is probability that going forward in the future, I don't know anyone's track record here, that things may adjust? Because there's certain people in countries that can't access. Like, do you think they'll basically just look at them and tell them get a VPN, or do you think they'll do something about it?
No, they won't.
I don't
think so.
Yeah, I don't see that. Yeah.
Yeah. I live in Russia, and I'm affected by like every possible thing which our game industry is up and running. So first of all, I wouldn't even play Helldivers if it wasn't for my friend who gifted it to me. I can't enter my PlayStation network to buy some new games. Fortunately, I can still play the ones I own. All the Microsoft and Sony production on other platforms like Steam, for example, they are also unavailable for last 2 years, I think. If you are like me, you have zero chances of getting it, playing it, and feeling it. And it's not going to change for other countries as well, I think.
Going forward off of this, because I think this is a fine channel, if there are people affected by this, how does that make anybody else feel? Are you still going to continue playing Helldivers if you have access? Or, I mean, is this like a boycott situation?
But that's I feel stabbed in the back with it, but I also understand why it happened. It's all a question of money, earnings, power, who has the servers, who has the connections. It holds like the ties.
I mean, at the end of the day, for me, as long as the game's still fun and continues to update, I'm still going to play it.
Yeah.
Same here.
That's fair.
I mean, I can play it, but it just feels wrong for me because a lot of people won't be able to play it. I can play it, but a lot of people just won't be able to just because they don't live in the correct country. And if they use a VPN, then they get banned. So they got no choice except not playing the game or move to a different country by uprooting their entire lives after they bought the product. That's how I feel. So I don't feel good for playing the game anymore.
Like Atatsu, I am also affected by this announcement, since I'm in one of the East Asian countries that don't have PSN, and considering what happened to attempts to use VPN to continue the fight on the front, getting banned, that's a bit of a problematic thing for me. And I would love to play it, but due to the publisher's seeming attempt to slash the tires of their new golden goose, well, I really can't.
As Arrowhead goes through these things, and we've seen them make these missteps, we've seen them bundle a couple of patches where there's been outcries. We've got the kernel issue that was nicely explained to us what's going on, and now this being the latest bumble of outrage from everybody. There's 100% 2 or 3 other developers out there cloning the game to suit their idea of what it should be, and they're 100% looking at this going, okay, what not to do. What do you guys think? Are we going to see some more games come out there? Are they going to learn from these type of mistakes that we see Arrowhead go through and we've all been going through?
There will definitely be Helldivers clones. The issue is if they will actually be good.
Yeah. Going back to Ray's question regarding will other developers learn? If it's something like the music industry where bands learn from other bands on what to do and what not to do, it might work. But sometimes it really, it takes a iron dagger to get through corporate and executive levels to get them to learn, rather than just copy and paste but do it worse.
So there's been several IPs with very major conflicts with their player base. Like Helldivers 2 is obviously the Sony thing. And then you have the whole mess with Stellar Blade that went on. That was also Sony. And then also the 40K IP is having their big mess. So to answer the question, will the next people learn? Depends on how big they get. Probably not.
It depends on the executive because I don't think Arrowhead wants to do this. It's just a Sony thing. So it really depends on the freedom the developers have. Their greed, because developers aren't saints. You can have an Escape from Tarkov moment.
Just from my perspective, since the beginning, the main flaws they had, like Arrowhead, was that no one believed in them at the beginning. So they didn't have enough like human power just to comprehend all the things. And the amount of player base, they certainly were not prepared for this. And I think when it started like going good, Sony decided to take matters into their own hands, like take away some of the freedom from the developers maybe. And considering the question about the future companies, I don't think that somebody will be able to withstand with all this bureaucratic and right ownership, this kind of things. So you either go small and do something indie, or you have to play by the rules. Unfortunately, even if you create something and it's like a devil's advocate situation, you know.
There's absolutely some truth to that. But if we take a look at history and we take a look at EverQuest, which was just an absolute juggernaut back in the day. Now we have to take a couple of things into account. Social media almost non-existent or was not existent back then, right? It's like in its infancy, right? And then we thought that game was going to be unbeatable at the time. And then along comes Dark Age of Camelot. Now, not as big to, unthrone the king at the time, but then along comes a little company to create WoW. And I say a little company only because what they turned it, like Blizzard turned into an absolute juggernaut of a gaming company. But back in the day, they weren't this huge company. They just had a vision and created a game and completely took it by storm. So that's what spawned the whole question is we've got a brand new idea for a game. Is somebody going to come along, a little independent company that's just going to do it better over time? Not this year, not next year, but maybe in 2 years and unseat the new king.
It really scratches my head on Sony's decision to make this decision 3 months into the game after it has sold in multiple countries all over the world that do not have the PSN network. So that I don't know who's this C-suite who stubbed their toe to implement this change, but unfortunately, at least for me, this had to be a player base that are primed to mobilize in the major orders in the in-game universe. And considering the immediate Steam review bombs, and that is a lot of mobility for a game whose monetization scheme is 1 millimeter in terms of monetization compared to the likes of War Thunder. But yeah, going back to the point, it's rather baffling business-wise, and I can only hope that with the mobilization of the players in terms of outcry and responses, as well as the fact that like Sony likes it or not, Arrowhead did bring them a shit ton of players, etc. I hope that can provide enough leverage for them to at least meet halfway, or in best case scenario, rescind that and keep the democratic train going without as much hiccups. That's the only thing I can really hope with this situation.
Hopefully something in the future will be worked out. And, if it does, it does. If it doesn't, it's been a good run. I think everyone got their money's worth. Only time will tell.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, like, the game's not dead, and it doesn't need to be dead, because it is a fun game, and people can be mad at it, or mad at Sony, not at the game.
Overall, I think that the most tragic thing is that
the community managers seem to be making the situation worse, while the lead or the owner of Arrowhead is trying to make it better. It's sad to see what's happened, and I hope that some sort of agreement can be made, or at the very least, people who can't play the game anymore get refunds.
Okay, well, that was a great discussion with everyone. I guess it comes back to the big question, will this kill Helldivers 2? I think we can probably take from the discussion we've heard here today, no, it probably won't kill it. It's probably going to hurt the community a little bit. It's going to hurt player base numbers a little bit. But at the end of the day, and as people said, you know, they're probably going to keep playing. Some people are going to, you know, not feel great about playing when others can't. Others, and we've certainly seen that in our comments, people simply won't be able to play. We have somebody in here that won't be able to play any longer. We've got some comments in our YouTube channel from people that simply will not be able to play. It's an effective ban. That is really unfortunate. We too hope that Sony finds a compromise or rescinds this, you know, reverses course on it. One can only hope. So it doesn't seem like it'll kill the game, but we do encourage everyone to follow their convictions. Vote with your wallets, right? Vote with your wallets. If you haven't bought the game and you're questioning it, feel free to not buy the game. If you are okay with it, buy the game. If you're already playing, we've had people that have uninstalled the game. They've told us that they've uninstalled the game and they're requesting a refund. They may not get their refund, but out of principle, they've uninstalled the game. They will no longer play it. If that's you, we respect that. You know, and if you want to keep playing, keep playing. It's down to everybody's personal conviction. Sounds like most of us in here are going to keep playing. We do love the game. We think this is a really unfortunate situation, but me personally have full respect for those that choose to uninstall if that's it and request a refund. And I wish everybody the best, no matter what they choose. So I just want to take a moment to thank everybody here that joined us. We had a whole bunch of Helldivers, and we thank our bigger community for just, you know, being on this journey with us here at Two Jesters and News from the Front as we've grown, and it's been great. So it's great to get everybody in here in our Discord to hear from these actual Helldivers. And thank you for listening. We hope you got something out of this, and we will see everybody in the next video. Thanks for joining us.